Every once in a while, a single number comes along that just completely flips the script on the global economy. Today, we're going to dig into a figure out of India that has left analysts, well, pretty much stunned. It's a number that defies all the predictions and really forces us to rethink what's happening with economic power. And here it is, 8.2%. For the second quarter of 2025, India's economy didn't just grow, it absolutely took off, posting a massive 8.2% GDP growth rate. And just so we're all on the same page, this wasn't just a good number. This was a number that, frankly, nobody saw coming. And this is where you can really see just how big of a surprise this was. The world was forecasting a very strong 7.4% growth. But India delivered 8.2%. That's not just squeaking by the expectation. That is a huge, huge beat that blew all the forecasts out of the water. What's really wild is that this isn't just a one-off thing. It's a story of an economy that's actually accelerating. A year ago, growth was at 5.4%. Last quarter, it was 7.4%. And now, 8.2%. So while a lot of other economies around the world are hitting the brakes, India seems to be stepping on the gas. So how on earth did this happen? Well, that's where the story gets truly remarkable. Because this incredible growth didn't happen in some perfect, calm economic environment. Nope, it happened while India was facing some of the toughest economic headwinds you can imagine. And here's the biggest headwind of all: massive 50% tariffs imposed by the United States. Right now, India is the only country in the world that's dealing with a tariff rate that high from the US. This was a move designed to put maximum economic pressure, to really squeeze the economy. And from the American side of things, the thinking was pretty simple. The belief was that these tariffs would hit the Indian economy so hard that officials would have no choice but to come back to the negotiating table, basically asking for a deal. That was the game plan anyway. But just look at how this played out. That strong 7.4% growth in the first quarter, that was before the tariffs really hit. Then, at the end of July, boom, the 50% tariffs are imposed. So everyone was holding their breath, right? Wondering what would happen next. Well, the answer was an even higher growth rate of 8.2% in the quarter after the tariffs were in place. It was the complete opposite of what everyone predicted. Okay, but whenever you see a number this good, this unexpected, it's only natural to be a little skeptical. And that brings us to a really important question that's popped up ever since this news broke. It's the elephant in the room, so let's just tackle it head on. With a number that goes against all the global trends and seems to defy all this economic pressure, are we missing something? Could the data itself be, well, flawed? And this isn't just random doubt. The skepticism really comes from a recent record by the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. In a review of India's economic numbers, the IMF gave them a C grade for what they call overall data adequacy. And that, understandably, raises some questions about the very figures we're talking about. Now, a C grade, that sounds kind of bad, right? But what does it actually mean? To really get the 8.2% figure, we have to understand this rating. Because as you're about to see, the context here is everything. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. First off, take a look at China, the biggest economy in Asia. It received the exact same overall C grade. But then look closer. In these key areas like government finance and external sector stats, India actually got a higher B grade, which suggests it's actually being more transparent in some ways. So why the C grade then? Well, a huge part of it comes down to this kind of technical thing called a base year. Just think of it like an anchor point for all your calculations. It's the year you use as a benchmark to measure real growth, so you can strip out the effects of inflation and see what's actually happening. And here's the key takeaway. The IMF's main issue is that India is still using 2011-12 as its base year, and that's just considered out of date. Now, this is super important. This is not an accusation of faking data. It's a critique of the methodology. It's a call for modernization, not a red flag for manipulation. In fact, the IMF itself says that India's plans to upgrade its systems are advancing, and a better grade is probably on the horizon. All right, so now that we've cleared up the data question, we can get back to what this 8.2% growth really means in the real world. Because in geopolitics and global trade, numbers like these, they aren't just statistics on a page. They're a form of power. And this, right here, is the bottom line.
By showing that its economy can not only survive, but actually thrive under these heavy tariffs, India has seriously weakened the main leverage the US had in negotiations. I mean, it's a lot harder to pressure a country that's blowing past all expectations, right? And get this, the story doesn't even end there. This 8.2% number happened before some recent cuts to the national consumption tax could even take full effect. So you've got those tax cuts, plus the huge festival season coming up in the third quarter when spending always surges, and it really suggests this momentum could keep on going. You know, at the end of the day, you can have all the tough talk, all the threats, and all the economic pressure you want. But what this situation really shows us is that in the end, actual performance is what speaks the loudest. An 8.2% growth rate, that is a statement that you just can't ignore.
So I'll just leave you with this thought. In a world that is full of economic uncertainty, where so many countries are struggling, India's ability to take a huge economic hit and just accelerate, well, it raises a really fascinating question about its future. What does this kind of resilience truly signal for the years ahead?